Hey friends, I hope you're doing really well today. And I felt this shaking in me last week when I kind of offered some, like, hey y'all, here's some topics I'm thinking about speaking on the next month or so. And I asked for suggestions and like request box essentially. And one that really stood out to me that, like I said, I had this felt sense inside of the frustration I think that we all have, and let's just talk about it, which is how come there are conflicting and contradictory recommendations about health concerns. Let's and then we'll keep it in the food realm and not like all the other ways you can do it, but the information that's out there from care providers, from trained professionals, online, wherever we see stuff. Why are things contradictory when we're supposed to be following the best we can in terms of science, which is always ever evolving, by the way? So I'll just say that I can't speak to why everything, like you can pick 5 providers and they might give you five slightly different, some radically different, some kind of similar, but with some variations, why they would do that. I'll just speak from me and my team's perspective of why we give the information we give in individual sessions. So you've probably noticed I don't give a lot of like very direct nutrition information. And it's because we actually teach people to be their own nutrition experts. So we take a person's very unique circumstances, their health history, their stress history, their trauma history, and their here and now, what you're able to actually have capacity to change. And then we kind of make recommendations as we go, as we build up like a foundation of basically capacity and ability to maintain certain kinds of habits. And a lot of times it's not that we withhold information. We just say, hey, this is what the best we have from science kind of shows us right now, with the limitations on like how long they did the study or who paid for the studies. And we try to do the best we can with that information, using a lot of common sense and again with people's health information. And again, especially dietitians, I mean, our training is in this bridge between like science. We learn a ton about physiology and how things work, like the really down to like the chemistry kind of level of stuff. And then we also have to learn human behavior and development. So we kind of have to be this bridge between like how to practically do things and the science of things, and especially the big picture. And so our recommendations are going to be different than somebody you might only see one time who maybe isn't looking at, when we talk to people, we're looking at like, let's say 10 different aspects of your health. And then we try to like, okay, let's just pick one thing and create the space and the safety to be able to do that regularly. And then we add another layer. So a lot of our recommendations actually go way slower than, let's say that if you went to maybe a primary care place or some other, maybe other specialty, but their goal is just this one lab value or this one body system, when the work we do, for example, is a little broader and slower, and then we get to the minutia of certain things depending on what needs to be honed in on. So that's why our recommendations might be different short term than somebody else's, but we're looking at the long game and the big picture. That could be the reason sometimes you're seeing contradictory information. And so I can't speak to other maybe providers or people that have some kind of credentialing or whatever are doing. Sometimes I've seen a lot of people, write books or create things, because of their own lived experience and what worked for them, and that might actually work good for some people, for sure. But then there's always going to be a certain percentage, whether it's, a large percentage or a small percentage, that just won't work for. I know that there were, depending on the We know that like there's nothing ever new under the sun, and every new trend you see in nutrition has already been here and done in some kind of way, just reworded and repackaged. And I know over the course of my life during, I call it the bad old days, of purposeful manipulation, of my body and not trusting my body and doing more extreme eliminating of certain kinds of foods or food groups that some things that others claimed that were just wonderful for them made me really sick. It just didn't work. And so we also kind of have to take that for granted of like, what's the agenda? Is it just the sell stuff that worked for them maybe, or maybe it's just another bandwagon kind of thing that people give you nutrition information on. So some might say, well, don't you have an agenda? I'm like, no, I just want people to be their own food and nutrition experts. And so, we kind of are like people trying to help rebuild the foundation of value-based decision-making around bodies and food, and here's the options, and the bigger picture pros and cons of things, to be honest. And and just really helping people stay value driven about their decisions. So nothing we offer people is short term. Everything's like our stuff is the long game. And we want people to kind of come to see us for as many months or years as it is and build that capacity and get in their here and now adult selves and learn how to be critical thinkers of information paired with signals from their body and kind of some common sense around how they want to live their lives and how much effort and emphasis they want to put on health and nutrition changes, and let the dust settle where it may, right? That's kind of our approach. We want people to be able to feel really empowered, and it maybe takes longer to get there in the now time. But long term, it's like they're not in and out of programs and not in and out of anything. They're just living their lives and being flexible and making adjustments when the body says, hey, I need more support in this area or not, and being able to feel confident that you can, your decision-making process can be trusted, right? And we don't want people making fear-based decisions. So I guess that's our agenda. We want that for people. We want people to be free and able to make, like I said, critical thinking, value-based decisions. And so the last part is like, why do we see contradictory information? Because, not everybody has the same kind of training. Like I said, as dietitians and people who've delved a lot into the neurobiology of stress and how that impacts our health, is that we bring a pretty eclectic training skill set to what we offer. But maybe some people had less nutrition classes. Maybe some people have just a separate organ system view of things and are short term around making some lab value different as quickly as possible, but not really looking at how that impacts maybe another person's physical or other physical, mental, or emotional indicators of health. So again, not everybody has the same level of training that they can pull from in giving you the information they're giving you. So for those who are curious and the person who has that question, my heart is with you. That I hear you. It's hard. It's hard keeping up with this. We spend so much time. I'm really transparent here. So much time, so much money, so much effort trying to keep up with like what's going on, what's trending, why is it trending, what's the agenda, getting back to the basics. Does it contradict, basics? Does it do the basics? Or does the in now trend contradict the basics and the what's best long term for a person? I mean, it's a lot, and I don't expect people who aren't in our field to do that. That's why we're here, is to help people. Here's the information, here's what it means short term, here's what things mean long term, and what do you want to do with this, basically, and helping people navigate that in a very practical way. So that's why you'll see sometimes that people come in doing, excluding, let's say, some major macronutrient, and we need all of them, contrary to what people think, for energy purposes, for mood, for long-term ability to have food be, if you have a medical condition, we want to keep things in quote unquote a balance for you as best as we can long term. And we hardly ever see that extremes work for people. There's got to be some room for variance in intake without the fear of something bad happening if you don't do it exactly that same way. All right. And when people do extremes with anything, we tend to get some obsession, and minimally you're going to have a threat response. And at the end of the day, if your body's in a threat response, it's just not going to be as well. It's not going to heal as quickly or at all. And it's causing the body to see what you're doing as a threat at the end of the day. And that's what I'm in the business, and my team, we're in the business of helping people feel safer in their own bodies. So if something's making you feel less safe, because it is out of proportion to what you actually might need to do for long-term wellness, we wouldn't recommend that. So anyway, I hope this video helps. I know it wasn't like very specific, do this, do that. We don't ever do that because it takes a lot of looking at all the different pieces of the puzzle, including lab work sometimes and other things, to get a clear picture of like what's the best starting place, and then what do we layer, and what's next, and what's next, and what's next, versus do some quick fix things, knowing that it's not sustainable long term, or it has too many side effects to be, again, we're not going to be able to maintain it because of the side effects, whether it's a medication or just some kind of change, food, movement, whatever it is, So I hope that helps you. And again, I hear you all. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with contradictory information. It's enough to make somebody like, screw it, I'm just not going to try. And I do really, really hope that you take some time to step back into like, where do I want to go? What do I want my eating to look like? How could that be possible? Just ask some just curious questions about how can you get to where you want to be with your health in a way that doesn't cause you to be in a threat response. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.